and welcome to a special edition of Magical Vacation Planner with Carly Garrett. I'm here with my girl Jamie, and we've got a special treat for you today. We're going to be taking the My Disney tips and tricks on how to help your family have the most magical time at Disney vacation, on a Disney vacation. And Jamie, who is a behavior specialist with Behavior Best, she's going to help you handle the behavior aspects of it. So Jamie, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Behavior Best and what it is you do to help families out?
Okay. So Behavior Best is a little bit different that most behavior analysts serve kids with disabilities, and that we do, but our primary focus is helping parents of children that have had typical development, but now, we kind of are struggling with things, and your typical parenting tools maybe aren't working. And so maybe between the ages of 2 and 7 is kind of our target of helping families. And so we provide evidence-based parent education through webinars and in-person events. We partner with childcare programs and preschools to educate early childhood providers, and we also provide in-home consultation with parents. And so today, what I thought I would share is one of our sort of hallmark techniques, and it really comes from my background of serving adults with head injury and kind of putting this all together and understanding how our little ones operate. And so we have a technique, we say, pretend you are a light switch. And really what this is the idea that our frontal lobes are the last part of our brains to develop. And so not till we're 18 to 24 years old. And so because of that, our little ones don't yet have all the reasoning and problem-solving skills that they're going to need. And so protectively, that frontal lobe shuts down when they kind of reach their maximum skill set, if you will. So we say that's the switch. And really, that's when you see unwanted behavior. But it might be just whining, or maybe they're not listening or kind of refusing to do things.
Because that never happens.
Never. Not in my house either, right? And so we say the switch is off. And what that means is if we can respect that moment, most of the time we can prevent the activating then of the fight, flight, freeze, which no behavior analyst in the world is going to compete with that, right?
Exactly. There's no magic that can fix that.
No magic, even at Disney.
Exactly.
And so what the light switch does is it teaches you when to teach new skills, when to teach the lesson, when to implement your discipline. Most of the time what we see in our practice is that well-meaning, us parents and teachers, right, we try to fix the problem or teach the lesson when their switch is off. And during that time, the brain is actually actively trying to block any extra learning or stimulation. So we're kind of spinning our wheels as the parent trying to teach the lesson. And so what we want to teach is how to get the switch back on quickly, which will be very helpful at Disney or wherever you're going on vacation, right? And the idea that the switch is going to go off more often on vacation. And so with that little bit of an intro, now what we're going to talk about is some frequently asked questions that we get, both from my perspective when clients of ours or families come to our parent events and ask, I'm going on vacation. What's the first thing I should use, to help out with that? And Carly and I have the opportunity to collaborate, and she gets the same types of questions that I get.
Absolutely.
About, sort of succeeding, I guess, in at Disney and the various Disney properties. And so we're going to start with our very first question, and I'm going to let Carly introduce that question.
Well, one of the things, you have a great article about when you're going on vacation, don't forget to pack behavior. I think that is fantastic because I get the question about, like, what do I pack? I can get you, like, all of the who's and what's it kinds of things on how to get you through your trip, but making sure that you read that article is fantastic.
We'll post it in the comments.
Absolutely. So you can, again, talk about bringing that good behavior. So one of the things, my biggest question that I normally get from people when they're thinking about a Disney vacation is, what's the best age to go? And that's a toughie because kids are different. Sometimes you have an 11-year-old that's absolutely fearless and can do just about anything, or sometimes you have the 11-year-old who doesn't want to do anything, or throwing a 5-year-old in there. So I always tell folks the best age to go for your kids is usually around the 4, 5, 6 age up to whenever, because Disney's for any age and definitely those kids at heart. So it really kind of just depends on what your kids are used to and what their normal routines are and how adventurous they are. Also too, Disney can be very exhausting. You are going to walk anywhere from 15 to 20 miles a day. So think about that. That can be a lot for little teeny tiny legs, especially for mom or dad having to push strollers. That can't be fun either. So try to think about that that when you're trying to figure out when's the best age to go. Also to school. Do you want to take your kids out of school or not out of school? Because obviously the busy times are during school breaks. So spring break, summer break, the holidays. And then the peak or the low times are around those. So like January, May, September, so it's only a decision up for you to determine if you want your kids to miss school or not. It's kind of hard, like school, Disney, but it's entirely up to you.
Can I ask, is it fair to say that if you go during the low peak times that you will be more efficient because maybe you won't have to wait in line as long, or you'll get to actually ride more rides? Is that fair?
Absolutely, because those value seasons is what they call them. Prices are lower. And crowd levels are down. Now, there's no such thing as a slow time at Disney. Okay. So if you're expecting to go and not ever have to wait in line, that will never happen. I wish it would, but it never happens. But yes.
Shows my naivety. I have not been to Disney.
But that's the thing. There are different strategies that you can use to minimize your time by standing in line, because that's the most challenging aspect. So speaking of challenging aspect, this is where our behavior expert's going to come in. So let's talk about your schedule. So going down to Disney, like I said, you're walking 15 to 20 miles a day. That's exhausting. You're in this new environment. You are excited. You are you want this, you want that, and you want to experience all of these things. So that means that behavior is under a microscope. So our challenging behaviors that we're seeing in the home before we go on vacation then get amplified when we're on vacation. So Jamie, how can we have our parents help kids out dealing with that behavior while they're on vacation and getting them through those unexpected schedules?
Yeah. I have a couple thoughts. I think the first one is if you're already challenged with things like listening the first time, or, your kiddo doesn't really like when they don't get their way, they don't like transitioning when it's your decision to move on to the next thing and not theirs. Those are things that we would want you to work on at home first before you leave, because it's just as likely that they're not going to do those things when on vacation too. They don't magically, right? Just start doing these things because it's Disney. But they're also the sheer volume of the bells and whistles and shiny objects and things to request and ask for. And we see in our practice that being told no is one of the biggest stressors for kiddos. And that's one of the things that we're constantly helping families with in their homes. And so if your child doesn't like being told no now, it's going to be really hard to kind of avoid those issues in Disney. And so what we might want to do is really work on that first before. And then the other part of it is, we talked about the switch, that when you're on vacation, your switches just might be a little bit more dim. They're not maybe off yet or on all the time, but just more dim. And what we teach parents and teachers is that when the switch is dim, we might want to just temporarily decrease our expectations just a little bit. Not that you're giving them a pass to kind of run the world, but maybe you just aren't going to expect as much of them as you usually do, and kind of, expect a little bit less until their switch comes back on. So not forever, but just give them a little pass and think to yourself, when your switch is off, as the parent, because we have a switch too.
Yeah.
We just have lots more coping strategies than our little ones. And so kind of thinking about that from their perspective. How can we get their switch back on before we get back to our normal expectations for our kiddos?
And that's a great point, managing expectations. That's something that I talk to my clients about all the time. I want to know, what's the most important thing for you for Disney? First of all, you're on a family vacation. That's the most important part. You want to be able to enjoy your family. You want everyone to have a good time. But it's asking those questions. What's important? Is seeing Mickey Mouse, is that absolutely paramount that we do? You bet. Or going on certain rides, things like that. If those are the important things that we need to do, then let's get them in the schedule. Let's get that as part of the plan. But managing those expectations, because there will become a time when everything's going to go wrong. Yeah. And you have to be able to acknowledge that, like when everyone switches off, and you need to acknowledge that and say, okay, you know what, everyone switches off, let's just take a break. We need to leave the park, go back to the resort, and just have some downtime. Because you can't just keep trying to force them, because you're there and you're excited, you can't keep trying to force them to want to do those things when their switches are off.
And I think it's our natural tendency as parents, because we want to maximize. These are not cheap vacations, right? My friend Carly is the cheapest part of them, because she's free. You don't have to pay for her part of your trip. And she's probably going to save you money, because she's going to maximize your time while you're there. But what she's not going to do is tell you to pack your day full to maximize your time. She's going to give you tips and tricks of how to do that in more efficient ways. Because if you pack your day full and don't proactively create those downtimes for you and your kiddos, we're setting ourselves up for a meltdown, a whole family switch off meltdown, right?
No good.
So if you have to pause and get your switch back on, that's the first recommendation. But if you can also, Carly's got great ideas of how to schedule your days. She's got great kind of itineraries that she can help you with so that you don't have to get to a switch off moment. At least you can try your best to prevent it. There's always the unpredictable, right? But if we can just control for some of the predictable, and I think that's where Carly's service is really going to benefit all of you, is that she helps control for, she already has been there, done that. I mean, look at all of her years. She is your expert. So she already has kind of been through the learning the hard way at times and can help you not do that. And for some families, it might be a once in a lifetime vacation. So to just have it go, it's kind of like that wedding, right? That you only get the one shot that day. You can't like start the wedding over halfway through, right? Okay, this isn't going how I envisioned, right? So you have to, plan for it just like you would a big event. And she's going to help you do that the most efficiently.
Yes, and speaking of planning for the unexpected, some of the things that, like I mentioned, if meeting Mickey is like your biggest expectation for the trip, and you think you're going to have this great picture of you and your kids in front of the castle with Mickey or things like that, and your little one sees Mickey and freaks out. Kind of like those pictures like with the Easter Bunny or Santa or things like that. So that's a moment that happens quite a bit. So how can we help parents kind of prepare their kids for characters or those scarier things that may pop up in the parks, and how they can deal with that moment?
Yeah. Again, same tip as I had before, that whatever you might be able to anticipate, and I think she's giving you some ideas that other families have experienced. So let's just assume, even if your kid has loved Chuck E. Cheese, right, or has been to another place where they've had a character, if you've been to a Minnesota Gophers game, or maybe you're not in Minnesota, you've been to any kind of a mascot situation, and your child has accepted those, doesn't mean they're still going to, because maybe switch is dim at Disney. And so then just because of all the extra stimulation or the fatigue or the exhaustion, right? And so doesn't mean that just because they've accepted mascots or characters or, people dressed up in other places that they will there. And so what I would recommend is to practice at home. What could you say or do if you see something that's unexpected, and actually introduce that language to them? Because a lot of children by 4 years old, up until even 6, 7, 8, aren't using that in their everyday language. They don't say things like, well, that was unexpected. But that's actually one of the great ways we can teach them to overcome stressors when we meet families, and kind of the need for children is unexpected events, flip their switch right off, right?
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
This isn't even at Disney, just everyday life. And so what we want to teach them is sometimes having a word to label their feeling going on right in that moment helps keep the switch on. And so at home, when your switch is on, before you leave for vacation, is the best time to say, okay, let's practice this. And not just talk about it. Let's actually practice. What could you say or do if something unexpected happens? And then make something unexpected happen. So I'll give you an example. I was serving a little 5-year-old little friend once, and unexpected things are very stressful for him. And so what we did is we started by telling him something unexpected is going to happen, because then it's expected temporarily. Just the fear, sheer unpredictability of it can stress us all out, especially children who thrive with predictability. So we told him it's coming, and then we made it happen almost immediately. So there wasn't a delay.
Okay.
The delay is what makes it unpredictable.
Right.
You can tell them today something unexpected might happen at Disney today. But then there's a delay. We don't know when that's going to happen, and maybe nothing will. But if you've already practiced at home, what should they say or do if? One example might be, so the little boy, we had his sisters. He had twin sisters, and they're older than him, and they came walking out of the mudroom wearing the wrong backpacks. So they each had each other's backpacks on. And we taught him to say, well, that's unexpected. Hey, would you two mind switching back to your regular backpacks? So just giving him the language, because if he can calmly say that, he won't then also be able to be flying off the handle, upset about something. So it keeps his switch on, which is all we need, right? And then each time we practiced that day, we made that delay to something unexpected be more and more, and they weren't as silly anymore. We started with silly, like the backpacks.
Keep it fun, absolutely.
Keep it super fun, just like Disney is. So practice, role play. Don't just talk about it. And I think as a field, what we're seeing in our practice is we're adding value to a parenting toolbox in that most of us want to teach behavior by talking and telling the child the rules, right?
Yes.
We would just all be in a whole different place if all we had to do is tell them.
Wow,
the rule.
That's a great tip. Yeah, absolutely.
We don't teach behavior by talking at this age. When they get a little bit older, yes, maybe 8, 9, you can say, look, that's not okay. Don't do that again.
Right.
But right now, they learn how to behave better by how it works for them and how you teach them what's expected instead. And so we want you to focus on what should they do instead when something unexpected happens on vacation.
Okay, great tips. One of the things part of that practicing at home things, one of my tips is go on YouTube. There are a ton of videos out there about what the Haunted Mansion looks like on the inside. So the Haunted Mansion, that sounds pretty scary, but you can say, okay, this is what the video is. This is what it looks like on the inside. So they can see that the ghosts actually are singing dancing ghosts. They're not scary ghosts. Yeah. So using YouTube and other videos that are out there to kind of give them that periphery, that practice, and then you can talk about that, like, oh, look, here's that unexpected ride with the ghosts. This is what it's going to look like, that kind of thing. So that's one of my tips that you can do along with preparing at home and to help deal with that unexpected. All right, so one of the other big things that one of my biggest tips that I can help people out is the I wants. I have the I wants when I am at Disneyland and Disney World all of the time. So how to prepare your kids so you're not constantly, no, you can't have that. No, you can't have that. No, you can't have that. Because again, remember, we're on a family vacation. We're spending time with our family. We want to have a good time with our family. So one of my biggest tips is to buy those souvenirs before you go at the dollar store or Target or Walmart or things like that. Packaging it up so like when you are in your resort before you leave for the day, you can be like, all right, hey, look, here's Mickey left this overnight or Tinkerbell left this overnight. And so there's a new either stuffed animal, a new t-shirt, something like that. Something new and exciting that's only going to cost you $5 at Target. But when you get to Disney World, it's going to be $25. So then they have that something new and exciting. So it kind of helps with the I wants, what they see and things like that. My biggest tip is at nighttime, they always have the parades and things like that, and they sell like the little glow sticks or like the spinny things and things like that. They're really expensive at Disney, but if you go to the dollar store, they're like $3 or $4. So that's like one of my biggest things is kind of prepare for those I wants beforehand so they can have that new exciting things before you get to the parks so they're not constantly asking because they're going to ask. And so Jamie, how do we handle those situations with that constant, it could not necessarily be like a souvenir. It could be an ice cream treat or a popcorn bucket or a stuffed animal. So we've done our preparation in the room. They've gotten their new Mickey Mouse stuffed animal, but that's not good enough. They want something else. So when you're in the parks, how can parents kind of get through those moments with their kids with the I wants?
Yes. So I think that the reason this is such a phenomenal collaboration and when I had met Carly is because we both think very proactively. We don't want you to be spending your time at Disney reacting to all the problems that are going on, right?
That's not fun.
No. And so her tip to be proactive about it is amazing. And that's my tip too, that the skill that you're teaching your children behaviorally is how to tolerate not getting your way, how to tolerate being told no. We call that a denial.
Okay.
We're denied our request.
Okay.
And it's a tough thing for kids.
Absolutely.
Period. Right? At Disney. And so my feedback is the same as before. Again, are these things that are difficult for you now? While at Target.
Yes.
Or wherever you go daily, with your children now. Because if that's the case, it's not going to be any easier at Disney. And so let's work on it now at home first. So with denials, the first piece is how to react when they aren't going to accept your denial. Because no matter how preventative we are, they're still kids. And they're not going to be happy about some things that we say. And so I think a couple tips. If you can try and get in the habit of using a yes when.
Okay.
Instead of a no because. We, the adults, want to know the because. And we have a very rational reason why we're saying no. Right? But they don't care about our no because. Even if you tell them the reason and they understand it, they don't care. They don't have a frontal full of reasoning and problem solving. Right. And so what we want you to do is try to get in the habit of saying yes when. Sure, we can do that. And then fill in the blank when, right? And so that's one tip. A second one is you have to have a way to react, and that's the light switch. So switch is off, silent, You don't have to ignore them. You can silently and physically support them in any way, that they need. My 3.5-year-old, all I got to do is one of these. Doesn't matter what crime he committed. I need to get his switch back on first.
Okay.
And then I'll come back to any discipline or anything I need to do after. And so all I got to do is one of these. As he's walking towards me, his switch is coming back on and he sort of melts into me. Switch is on, then I can come back to the reason that caused him to be upset, which was probably being told no. So then at that moment, when his switch is off, you say no once. And a lot of times in my practice, what we see is that then we have these cement feet.
Okay.
And we're stuck there. And they're stuck there. And there's this negotiation that ensues, right?
You absolutely.
Yes. And so in those moments, move the feet. Take your body to whatever else is available.
Okay.
Because what you want to do is you're setting you teach with your behavior, not with your words. So you're teaching them to follow you, essentially. That you're getting them to imitate you. It's a form of teaching strategy.
Okay.
That if they follow you, which they will. I already know this,
Believe
friends.
that.
They will. They'll follow you when you've told them no and you stop entertaining it. And if you go grab a book or start playing Legos or start pushing cars around, as they join you and their switch comes back on, and then you re-engage with attention again about anything but the problem that just happened, right? When the switch comes back on, you don't have to go right back to the problem immediately. Some kids, you just need to keep it on for a while first. And some kids, we don't always have to go back to the lesson. With denials, there's no need to go back. Once they've accepted the alternative, that's the behavior you want to teach. Okay. So the way you're teaching it is you're showing them, you're demonstrating, you're modeling what behavior you want them to do instead, which is walk and find, where's my bookshelf? Where's my, Lego table? Where's my, toys, my blocks? And once they start engaging in those, even if they're not really that happy about it yet, they might be kind of fussing. And that's okay. That's okay. You can still start, playing with them, talking, and then they're learning over time. The switch comes back on. They show behavior regulation in that moment. They kind of pull it all together. They're calming down. And then attention follows right afterwards. What you're now teaching them is behavior regulation. Your attention comes right after that, calming down behavior. And then you see the calming down behavior happening quicker and quicker, more frequently, and they get better at it over time. And that's what the light switch does. It teaches behavior regulation, which is really cool.
Okay. So as you're practicing that at home, so then when we're at, we're on Main Street, we're in the Emporium, which is just a smorgasbord of fun things that we all want. And so when they're like, I want this Mickey, this stuffed Mickey, and you're like, rather than, no, you can't have that. That's what we don't want to hear. Right. We want to hear, yes, you can have that after we finish blah, 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 blah. Or
if yes is an answer.
Yes.
Because there's times when it's just later or not right now.
Yep.
So these are the times. I mean, if it's no, you just can say no. That's for sure.
Right. Yep. But again, this isn't something that they are hearing for the first time while they're in the magical emporium of stuff. You've been working on this at home. So they know that when mom says no or dad says no, that there's other things, that it's not just the end of the world that they've said no. And of course we have, setbacks and things like that. I mean, we can only, I don't even like hearing no sometimes when I'm down there, but it's something that we can work on.
I also think, a budget.
Oh, absolutely.
We have a budget as the adult for what we want to spend. And so maybe, depending on your child's age and kind of their ability to understand.
Absolutely.
And, my 5's, last year, he's 6 now, almost 7, but last summer, my father-in-law will love this story because he'll give him $1 to go to a garage sale. Oh, and fun. This kid will maximize his spending. He'll come out with like 6 things for $1, and he'll be negotiating with the lady, and she'll be giving him more free stuff. So it's a really great skill for your kids to learn to manage their own money too. So before you leave, again, we're proactive, right? Before you leave for Disney, why don't we go to Target once with a budget? Maybe it's $5, maybe it's $10, and let them go through all of that trials and tribulations of having to forego something because I really want this more. And what you don't want is for them when they run out of their budget to then have all the problems after. Right. That will happen if you don't first practice this at home. Right. If you practice at home first, they run out of their $5 at Target, they move on, you go home, they play with that, you're probably less likely to have the big ensue, right? Exactly. And then at Disney, when they are done with their budget, so maybe they have a food budget and they get to pick one, maybe it's not a dollar amount, maybe it's just one thing that they get to ask for every morning and every afternoon. So maybe you decide as a family, when are those times? And then once those are gone, and at that moment when they ask for it, kind of reminding them, okay, this is your choice. This is coming to the end of your budget, you know. But I think if you just did that at Disney and that was a new concept to them, it wouldn't be
Right.
effective. You have to practice that and introduce it at home first.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic tip. I've had some success where I was at Target and I got my Disney gift card for them. Because you can buy your gift cards at Target with your red card.
Oh.
You still save 5% off of that. So that's free money.
Good
So you buy your little gift card and say, okay, you have this $25, whatever your budget is. And so you have this for the week. And some kids blow it the first day. Other kids, like your son, wheel and deal. They kind of, see what their options are throughout the week. But again, it helps with this is what you have. But you have to practice that at home, or else when you say here's your budget, they're going to blow it one day and then be done, and then the next day is going to be the I want. So we don't want that.
Yep.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, bring up one more topic, which I think would be fantastic. Is I get a lot of questions about children with special needs, either dietary, behavior, whichever. And I have to say, absolutely, Disney does an amazing job helping families that have children with special needs, and it can be all along the spectrum. It can be sound, it can be noises, touch. It could be just dietary issues. It could be lots of different things. So there's lots of things that Disney does to help families with children with special needs. They have what's called a guest assistance card, and you pick this up at City Hall at the front of any of the parks, either it's like their guest services thing. I recommend getting there early because it tends to be busier in the morning, and you just need to be there with an adult and then the child. The child does need to be present. You do not have to prove anything. You don't need to have a doctor's note. You don't need to have to explain anything. You just need to say, my child has troubles with noises. We would like to be able to wait in areas that are more quiet. And so they'll give you this guest assistance card, and then the cast member will walk you through what all of that means for you. And that's absolutely wonderful. And I cannot stress enough, if you have any questions or concerns or anything with your children that have special needs, talk to the cast member. They're there to help. It's one of the things I love the most about Disney is customer service is top notch. And they are willing to help you out. Same with dietary issues, any allergies, gluten, anything like that. They're there to help you. So Disney has a great job of helping families that have special needs, either be it behavior, dealing with rides, scary situations, diet, all of those things. And I cannot stress enough, ask a cast member. They're there to help. Jamie, do you have any other things, behavior issues, any things like that you'd like to talk a little bit more about on how to help families that have special needs with their kids?
Yeah. I think this light switch is really, it was developed in my brain as I was a person without children, teaching parents of children with disabilities how to understand the brain development piece of things, but also the behavioral piece of attention is a big component that we control for, and then that avoidant behavior that's controlled for as well. When we're silent, we don't let them get out of it, right? We just don't make them do it when their switch is on. Or off, we wait till the switch is back on. Right. And so I think just realizing that technique was developed in serving children of all abilities. And so it's really effective. It's effective with my own husband, that we communicate saying to one another,
right,
this isn't a good time to talk about this. My switch is off. And that way we don't say things we're going to regret.
Absolutely.
Or do things we're going to regret. So I just wanted to kind of, mention that the light switch technique is for all parents of all children of all abilities. And so that would be a great tool for you to have in your toolbox that, when you're in the moment there at Disney and challenges happen, you've got a tool.
All right. So we've gone through quite a bit of stuff of learning some different resources, some tools, learning how to keep that light switch on when we're dealing with our families before vacation and then, of course, on vacation. So again, my name is Carly. I'm with Magical Vacation Planner, and my job is to help you have that most magical vacation that you possibly can. And my services are entirely free. So all of these wonderful tips and tricks are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all of the things that I can do to help your family plan that most magical vacation with no stress and no worry. And then my girl Jamie here from Behavior Best, she has amazing, amazing resources that can help you at home handling your kids and dealing with good behavior to prepare you not just for a Disney vacation but just everyday life. I think this is a great collaboration, Jamie. I'm so happy to have us working together. This has been so much fun.
Yes.
When we first were talking about it, I was like, this will be great.
So excited. We hope you all enjoyed.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.